The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Now up to bat. Let's talk about some Pittsburgh Pirates here, particularly Bryan Reynolds and his contract negotiations, which have not been going well. Brandon, are Reynolds' Pittsburgh days up in smoke?
LJ, it has not been going great. So essentially, I'll give a little context for those that are not clear. Bryan Reynolds has been trying to negotiate an extension with the Pirates. So he is a free agent after the 2026 season because he still gets arbitration for 2024 and 2025. However, he's like, I'm good enough. You should buy out my ARB years. And so that's what, that's kind of where we were at. Earlier in the winter, the Pirates offered something that was like $75 to $80 million over 6 years. And Bryan Reynolds was like, I kind of wanted like 134 over 8 years. So already a pretty big, difference in the asking prices from both sides. And so then we got to this point where it was like, all right, we're going to call opening day kind of the deadline, but not really, but we're just going to say it's a deadline. I hate when they do this. It's just so like why they just set the arbitrary points for this makes no sense, but whatever. So the two sides came to like an agreement on, they said, all right, we'll do about $106 million, 8 years, $106 million. That would include one of the 8 years would be 2023. And Reynolds said, let's backload the contract, yada, yada, yada. And then
backloading, that's entirely to serve the team.
Right. Yeah. Reynolds trying to help the team out by doing this. And then all of a sudden, Reynolds was like, oh, yeah, like one thing I do want in the contract, though, is I want to be able to opt out after 2026. So what would be, what would be his first, what would be his free agent year? So the Pirates would only gain an extra year of control in the event that he opted out of that contract. If he was to sign it. Basically, we've got to the point now where the Pirates are unwilling to agree to a deal which has this opt-out included in it. And this seems like this is the deal breaker for Bryan Reynolds also, who seems very content to just get his arbitration for the next 2 years and then potentially either get traded or leave. So we're at kind of a stalemate here, and I don't really know, like, what else, where are they going to go from here, LJ?
We're here to provide answers, so we're going to get past the situation into answers here, and the answer is Bryan Reynolds isn't finishing this year with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Whoa, okay.
I don't see how. Like, we're looking at a guy who everybody knew was good. Having now watched him play in person actually kind of does slightly alter it. And I don't feel like it's a recency bias here or the fact that he's got 4 homers in the first 5 games of the season. But this guy was a stud last year at 26. He's just getting into his prime and probably going to continue to provide massive, massive amounts of value to this team going forward. Or a team going forward. I don't see a world where he's making under $10 million next year. He's already at $6.7 million on his first ARB year. These numbers are going to get out of control for Pittsburgh very, very quickly. They don't realize this isn't about, let's try to find a cheap way to keep a star in this Pittsburgh market, especially seeing we finally have someone willing to work with us. But now you've just basically bit the hand that's feeding you. Like, your one opportunity to keep a star in Pittsburgh these days is just up in smoke now because you weren't willing to at least ensure he was going to be here for another 2-3 years. That was all that we were looking for here, was to ensure he's going to be here 2 or 3 more years. If he opts out at the end of this contract, you still had him for those 2 extra seasons. At this point, I see Bryan Reynolds' money inflating very, very quickly to the point, and I'm sure Pittsburgh is probably going to realize this by the end of the year, especially at the rate he's gone through these first couple of games. They are going to struggle to keep him past this year financially. They aren't going to be able to afford it. They're going to have to trade him by this trade deadline if he keeps up this pace and has an MVP caliber season. They're not going to be able to afford him next year. They could have easily. That's the point I'm trying to get across here, really, because I'm kind of a little bit scattered all of a sudden. But they could have easily afforded to keep him in town for at least a couple more years, which feels like a major win compared to losing him this year. All because they got a little greedy and wanted an extra couple of years on that. They didn't want to have this whole opt-out situation. They now lost him sooner than they ever needed to. It's needless.
Absolutely needless. And for a player of his caliber, it's pretty sad, especially that a Pirates organization whose payroll is only $75 million. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. Your highest AAV contract is $8.7 million to Brian Hayes. This just proves why we need owners that are willing to spend money, because the fact that they're willing to let this guy go, like, after, debuts with the franchise, has really done nothing but produce since he's gotten up to the bigs. And one opt-out clause is what's holding all this back. Is just sad.
It's a shame.